What's up, sisters? It's your boy, Beef, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I've got a build that is absolutely insane. We're going to be turning Baldur's Gate 3 into Elden Ring, and you, yes, you, are going to be the boss fight. Introducing the Gravity Knight, a devastating blend of wizardry, brute strength, and pure gravitational chaos inspired by General Radahn from Elden Ring. This build comes in hot like a meteor with massive burst damage, brutal crowd control, and a presence on the battlefield so heavy it'll feel like you're dragging the whole world behind you. Enemies will be crushed under the weight of your power or flung across the map like ragdolls. If you've ever dreamt of being the final boss, the one people rage quit over, this is the build for you. So let's dive in and become a living cataclysm. In Radahn's prime, he was a master of gravitational magic and an extremely powerful warrior. To get this effect in Baldur's Gate 3, we're going to be using the modded Graviturgy magic wizard subclass by creator Havs Glimped and combining it with the Rune Knight fighter subclass available through some Radagnoth's 5e fighter subclasses combined mod. Graviturgy magic is a subclass from the Explorer's Guide to Wildemount and is an official D&D subclass originally created by Critical Role. The subclass is going to give us access to a variety of new spells and passive abilities that will allow us to deal large amounts of force damage while exerting incredible battlefield control. For our fighter subclass, we're choosing Rune Knight mostly because it's relatively hands-off as a subclass, but also because Radahn has a great rune, so it just kind of makes sense, right? I originally tried to create this build using the Eldritch Knight subclass, but since we're only taking 6 levels of fighter, we don't get access to war magic, and the Eldritch Knight fighter's main gimmick is access to the wizard spell list, which we already have anyway, so why bother? Instead, we'll take the Rune Knight subclass so that we can be huge and also have enchantments on our armor and weapons. Additionally, I know that Radahn wields 2 massive greatswords. Unfortunately, this isn't really possible in the Baldur's Gate 3 or 5th edition systems. We can only wield 1 heavy weapon at a time. We could theoretically wield 2 long swords at the same time, using the dual wielder feat for a slightly similar vibe, but then we end up committing our bonus actions to our offhand weapon attacks when we could be using it for much more efficient and powerful options. So for that reason, we're just going to use 1 big longsword or 1 greatsword and use Great Weapon Master for some bigly weapon damage. For our character's race, we're going with a Githyanki, primarily because of their association with the stars and the astral sea. You could be human if you want, or half-orc, or a type of elf. It doesn't particularly matter for this build that much, at least not mechanically. At level 1, we're going to start with the fighter class, where we'll get to choose a fighting style and begin with access to heavy armor and different martial weapon proficiencies. For our fighting style, I'm going to go with defense for an additional +1 bonus to our armor class. Since we're going to wear heavy armor, our dexterity won't affect our armor class, so this is a good bonus to have. For our ability scores, we want to focus primarily on our strength and intelligence scores. Strength is for our weapon attacks and carry weight, while intelligence is going to be our spellcasting ability once we start taking levels of the wizard class. For both of those stats, we've gone for a score of 16. For our constitution, I've settled on a score of 14. We're going with a 10 for our scores in dexterity and wisdom, and I'm dumping my charisma stat with a score of 8. At level 2, we're taking a 2nd level of fighter for access to action surge so that we have some good melee burst damage to start the game with. At level 3, we're going to start multi-classing into the wizard class. We'll get to choose 3 cantrips here, and for my choices, I'm going to go with Booming Blade, Mage Hand, and also Minor Illusion for some fantastic damage, and also some good utility options. For our spells, we get to choose 6 that our character is going to know, and for our spells, we're going to go with the Shield Spell, Long Strider, Thunder Wave, Magic Missile, and also 2 spells that come to us with our subclass mod. We're going to get Gift of Alacrity and also Magnify Gravity. Gift of Alacrity is a buff spell we can use to increase ourself or an ally's initiative by 5, meaning that we no longer need the alert feat, like pretty much at all, on any character. You can cast this just pass this around your party and have +5 initiative. Really awesome. Magnify Gravity, on the other hand, is going to be our first main gravity spell, allowing us to deal 2d8 force damage in an area of effect, having our enemy's movement speed at the same time. We can choose to prepare whichever of these you want to. I'm going to go with Shield, Magnify Gravity, Thunder Wave, and Magic Missile. If you want to, you can always buff yourself with the Gift of Alacrity and Long Strider and then trade them out for your combat spells, because in Baldur's Gate 3, we have the benefit of being able to change our spellbook whenever we want to. We don't need to do it every long rest. At level 4, we're taking our second level of wizard to get access to our subclass, Graviturgy Magic. Understanding and mastering the forces that draw bodies of matter together or drive them apart, you learn to further bend and manipulate the violent energy of gravity to your benefit and the terrible detriment to your enemies. We'll get access to Wielder of Dunamis. The esoteric powers developed and harnessed throughout the use of Dunamis are still very much a rare and carefully guarded feature of the Kryn dynasty in the Wildemount region. However, such arcana is hard to keep hidden. Your skills as a Dunamancy wizard give you access to a set of spells available only to Chronergy and Graviturgy wizards. These spells can be learned as normal when leveling up and unlocking the corresponding spell slot levels. This is basically what's going to give us access to our spells like Magnify Gravity, Gift of Alacrity, and the ones that we'll eventually get as we continue to level up. The first one that we're going to get is called Adjust Density, which we can use to either make a target lighter or heavier by half or by double. Making a target lighter will double their jump distance, give them extra movement speed, but also force them to take disadvantage on strength checks and saving throws, while making them heavier will decrease their movement speed, halve their jump distance, giving them advantage on strength checks and saving throws. This effect does also work for objects throughout the game, making them more easily thrown and other things similar to that. We're also going to get access to 2 more spells, and I'm going to take Featherfall because it feels kind of like a gravity spell, as well as protection from evil and good. At level 5, we get our third level of wizard for access to second level spells. If you want to take it, we get a spell through the mod called Fortune's Favor, which is a buff we can give to ourselves or an ally, which allows us to add a +4 bonus to a roll basically at will, which is kind of crazy. I'm going to go ahead and take it, and also Misty Step for some really awesome movement capabilities. At level 6, we take our fourth level of wizard, where we're going to learn a new cantrip, some spells, and a feat. For my cantrip, I'm going to take Sapping Sting because it's made available from our subclass mod. It does 2d4 necrotic damage, sapping the vitality of a creature, possibly causing it to fall prone. I'm not going to use it very often because we have other things that do more damage and have more options for us, but this is pretty cool if you just wanted to use a cantrip. For our spells, I'm going to take Chromatic Orb and also Hold Person, but you could theoretically take whatever you wanted to here. And for our new feat, we're going to start by taking a special half feat available through the Tasha's Feats mod by Lucid Frog. Specifically, we're going to take the feat called Telekinetic. This allows us to increase our intelligence or any other spellcasting stat by 1, and also gain the ability to use our bonus action to telekinetically push or pull an enemy, which is big time gravity vibes if you ask me. We're going to go ahead and increase our intelligence by 1. I know that it's a 17, an odd number now, but wait a little bit later and it'll all kind of come together. At level 7, we get our 5th level of wizard for 3rd level spell slots. We're going to get access to a bunch of really cool new spells, including Pulse Wave, which comes from our subclass mod. This one allows us to deal 66 force damage and either pull or push our enemies, basically Thunder Wave, but even better. We're also going to learn Counterspell since it's basically just too good to pass up. At this point, I'm generally going to take out Thunder Wave and replace it with Pulse Wave because it's that much better. At level 8, we get our 6th level of wizard for a new subclass feature and 2 more spells. Our subclass feature called Gravity Well makes it so that every time we cast a spell on a creature, if the spell hits or the creature fails their saving throw, we can either push or pull them towards us. This works incredibly well with area of effect spells like our Magnify Gravity or Pulse Wave or any of the other ones that we have, allowing us to control massive swathes of the battlefield at one time. For our new spells, I'm going to learn the Haste spell as well as Fireball. One of the powerful abilities that Radahn has available to him in his boss fight is that he can come flying out of the sky as a meteor and crash on the battlefield. Although there's not any spell or ability in Baldur's Gate 3 that's like this, we're going to simulate it to the best we can by getting Fireball, which is kind of the same vibes to it. At level 9, we get our 7th level of the wizard class for 4th level spell slots. Our first 4th level spell is going to be a new gravity spell called Gravity Sinkhole. This spell deals 5d10 force damage in a pretty large area of effect, pulling all enemies towards the center of the area. It's kind of like Black Hole from the Illithid abilities and pairs really well as an opening move in combat, followed by an action surge and another spell like Fireball, which we just took, which is absolutely awesome. For our other spell, I'm going to take Mirror Image because Radahn also has the ability to summon these kind of mirror images that he can use in his fight. So I feel like this is really coherent and thematic for our character, and also just helps to buff our defensive capabilities pretty strongly. For our prepared spells, I'm going to go ahead and take out Fortune's Favor and Hold Person and replace it with Mirror Image and also Gravity Sinkhole. At level 10, we get our 8th level of Wizard for 2 more spells and also a feat. For our spells, I'm going to take Greater Invisibility and also Fire Shield. You could take theoretically whatever you want here, but Greater Invisibility and Fire Shield are 2 pretty good utility spells that we have available to us. For our feat, I'm actually going to be taking another half feat from the Tasha's Feats mod, and this time we're going to be grabbing Slasher. Since we're mostly using big swords with slashing damage, this allows us to add a +1 to our strength, and every time we hit an enemy with our sword, we can reduce their movement speed by 3 meters, which is pretty cool. At level 11, we're switching back over to get our 3rd level of the fighter class so that we can grab our new subclass. We're going to choose the Rune Knight Fighter from the 5e Fighter Subclasses Combined mod from some Radagnoth. This subclass allows us to infuse our weapons and armor with runes, just like the Great Runes in Elden Ring, of which Radahn is one of the wielders of. It's also going to give us access to Giant's Might, which is similar to Path of the Giant Barbarian's Rage, but since it's not a rage ability, it does not inhibit our spellcasting capabilities. This will allow us to grow in size during combat because Radahn is just an absolute unit of a character. For our 2 runes that we get access to, we're going to go with the Cloud Rune and the Stone Rune. We have access to the Cloud Rune, the Fire Rune, the Frost Rune, and the Stone Rune at this level. However, the Cloud Rune is going to give us advantage on sleight of hand and also deception checks, which is great for some really fantastic buffs to our sleight of hand and also deception checks, obviously. While the Stone Rune gives us advantage on insight checks and also free dark vision, which is really cool because we don't have it otherwise. The Cloud Rune can also be used once per short rest and twice at level 15 in order to completely nullify the damage of an attack to either ourself or an ally within 9 meters. We can choose to invoke the Stone Rune to force a wisdom save on an enemy that will charm and incapacitate them if they end their turn within 9 meters of us. At level 12, we're going to get our 4th level of the fighter class to get access to a new feat, and I'm going to take an ability score improvement. Both our strength and intelligence scores are 17s from 2 of our half feats that we took previously, so I'm going to use 1 point in each to make them both 18. Gigabrain. At level 13, we get our 5th level of fighter for extra attack and not much else. Obviously, extra attack is super helpful, so this is definitely worth it. At level 14, we get our 6th level of the fighter class for another feat, which is pretty freaking sweet. And I'm going to do Great Weapon Master so that our new extra attacks can do even more big time damage. At level 15, we're done with the fighter class and going back over to the wizard class for the last of our levels. We'll now get access to 5th level spells as a level 9 wizard, and I'm going to take a new spell from our subclass called Temporal Shunt. This is kind of like Counterspell, but we can use it to simply banish an enemy for a turn, and it works when they cast a spell or make a regular attack, which is even better than Counterspell. I'm also going to be choosing Telekinesis because it kind of fits the vibe of our character, being all about gravity and throwing things around and being very mobile on the battlefield. At level 16, we get our 10th level of Wizard for a new subclass feature. The Violent Attraction allows us to use our reaction to increase the gravity around our allies' attacks, adding 1d10 damage dice to it. Violent Attraction Fall Damage, on the other hand, allows us to increase an enemy's fall damage by 2d10, which is nice if we're pushing enemies away and off ledges and want to get some extra damage done to them. For our new cantrips, I'm going to take Shocking Grasp. You could do whatever you want here, but Shocking Grasp is pretty much always a good one. We're going to be in melee range a lot, so might as well take this one. And for our spells, I'm going to take Dimension Door as well as Hold Monster, but these are entirely up to your own personal taste at this point. We kind of have everything that we really need to get this character rolling. At level 17, we get our 11th level of the Wizard class for access to 6th level spell slots. I'm going to be choosing Globe of Invulnerability as well as Disintegrate because it's more force damage, and Globe of Invulnerability is just really fantastic and can win us several different encounters throughout the game. At level 18, we get our 12th level of the wizard class for some more spells and also a feat. For our spells, I'm going to take the Wall of Fire spell and also Shatter because I like these two spells, but again, these are pretty much up to our personal taste. For our last and final feat, I'm going to go with the Warcaster feat so that we can maintain concentration much more easily on our concentration abilities. If you'd rather have an ability score of 20, like Intelligence or Strength, you definitely can, but I think 18 is just fine for our purposes. You could also just drink strength potions for more strength numbers, or drink that elixir from Araj Oblodra that gives you a permanent +2 bonus to your strength. Whatever you want to do is definitely up to you. At level 19, we're going to get our 13th level of wizard for some more spells, and I'm going to go with Remove Curse as well as Bone of Cold, just because there are some pretty good spells, and we pretty much have everything that we really want here. And finally, at level 20, we get our 14th level of the wizard class for our capstone ability called Event Horizon. This is a concentration ability which creates a 9-meter aura around our character. While enemies are inside of this aura and fail to save against it, they take 2d10 force damage and absolutely cannot move whatsoever. For our new spells, I'm going to go with Grant Flight. Even though it's not that useful, I feel like it kind of matches the vibe of our character as a gravity character. And I'm also going to take Glyph of Warding just because it's another option for some good elemental damage. That's pretty much all for this character's leveling, so let's take a look at some of the gear that will make this character significantly more powerful. Alright, so for our character's gear, there's a few things that we kind of want to focus on. We obviously want to be wearing heavy armor. You could do any heavy armor that you want. I've decided to go with a generic plate armor +2 because it gives us a 20 armor class. You could use the armor of persistence if you wanted to, but I decided to go with plate armor +2 primarily because I love the way that this looks, and when I give it the specific dye that I used, it looks really fantastic and has this great golden look to it that really matches the Radahn kind of classic flavor. The dye that I use specifically is available through the Rune Colors mod. If you go into the commissions folder, there's one in here called Kosith, the Lord of Flame, Fire, Red, Orange, and Yellow. And when you use this on all of this armor that I've chosen, it makes him look pretty much just like Radahn, at least as much as we can in Baldur's Gate 3. For our helmet, I'm also using Saravok's Horned Helmet, which gives us dark vision up to a range of 3 meters, or 15 meters if you already have it. It increases our critical hit threshold, which is pretty cool. We can't be frightened and cannot be afflicted with other emotion-altering conditions, and gives us a +1 bonus to our Constitution saving throws, making us much more likely to maintain concentration again. For our cape, I'm using the Cloak of Protection, which gives us a +1 bonus to armor class and a +1 bonus to saving throw. Pretty standard here with our cloak. For our gloves, I'm using the Legacy of the Masters, which gives us a +2 bonus to attack and damage rolls with weapons. Pretty cool, just gives us a little bit more accuracy with our weapons, especially since we only have a strength score of 18. For our boots, I have the Boots of Persistence, which gives us access to freedom of movement and Longstrider at pretty much all times, and gives us a +1 bonus to our dexterity saving throws. For our amulet, I'm using the Amulet of Greater Health. You could use pretty much any amulet here, but this one is really great because it'll set our Constitution to 23, giving us a lot of extra health, which is pretty cool. I'm also using the Ring of Protection, which increases our armor class by 1 and our saving throws by 1, just like the Cloak of Protection, but in ring form. And I'm also using the Strange Conduit Ring. When concentrating on a spell, the wearer's weapon attacks deal an additional 1d4 psychic damage. We're going to be concentrating pretty much all the time, so this is a great ring to be able to have, just for some extra damage on our melee attacks. Speaking of melee attacks, for our weapon, I'm equipping the Astral Shard Blade. There's nothing particularly fancy about this weapon, except that its name is the Astral Shard Blade. It feels very gravity, very spacey. It kind of fits the vibe of our character, and it also just looks really damn cool. I love the way this looks, and it really fits the vibe of our character. Because it's a long sword with the versatile property, we can wield it with both hands and get access to Great Weapon Master, allowing it to deal 1d10 plus 18 slashing damage, which is really powerful for us. It means that our weapon attacks are going to do a minimum of 19 and upwards of 28 damage per hit, including the 1d4 psychic damage when we happen to be concentrating pretty much all the time. So this character is also a very excellent candidate for the Elixirs of Bloodlust, which last until long rest. You drink to enter a Bloodlust. Once per turn, when you kill a foe, you gain 5 temporary hit points and additional action. Replace its effect from other elixirs when drunk. If we combine this with Action Surge, a Speed Potion, and also our Elixir of Bloodlust, if we happen to kill an enemy, which we're pretty much going to do, we can get upwards of 4 actions in one turn, which is really insane for our burst damage because we can cast 4 spells, or do like 6 or 7 weapon attacks, or do any kind of combination there in between. In fact, I feel so confident about this character's combat abilities that I'm not even going to showcase it on the normal combat encounter that I used to showcase. We're going to go right over here and talk to the Stone Lord encounter and aggro every single one of these enemies, and we're going to deal a ton of damage, pretty much destroying all of them, and they're not going to do a damn thing about it. So I've already given myself the benefit of our runes here. We can go ahead and inscribe them. I've already done it, so we can't do it until the end of our long rest, but we do have them here available to us if you wanted to go ahead and do that. These are very powerful and just give us some extra utility in and out of combat. And I've also given myself the gift of alacrity, giving ourselves a +5 bonus to our initiative, but we're going to get combat started, and right before we go ahead over here and trigger it, I'm going to make sure that I give ourselves the mirror image, just because I want to get that done before we get into combat. And let's run over here and aggro these guys. Nobody messes with the Stone Lord. Can't we all just get along? Must we really fight?
In Baldur's Gate. Nobody's leaving this place alive, cock.
You're right about that. Because Radahn is here. These guys are going to do their own thing for a little while. We're not first in the turn order, so that's okay. They're just going to kind of shoot some arrows at each other. I'm not super worried about it. But as you can see, they're all aggroed to us. They're also aggroed to each other, so they're going to obviously attack each other. But I'm going to make them wish that they never called me a cuck. Yeah, go ahead and heal each other. It won't help you. All right, it's our turn. You know what that means. We're going to, you know what? The first thing we're going to do is we're going to drink a potion of speed, so we can do that at the first turn of our combat. And then we're going to, what do we want to do? Oh, right. Then we're going to Event Horizon. We get this one really cool free use of it, which is really awesome once per day. You can then also just cast it with whatever spell slot you want to. I'm going to go ahead and just do the free one since we have access to it. Now we've got this big aura here. All these enemies are infused in it. But what we're going to do is come up here and get these enemies pushed towards each other. I'm going to Pulse Wave, choosing the push option, and send them flying towards their friends. Or enemies, I guess. Bye-bye, and then just because we can push every single one of them. Or try to, at least. Now, we're going to come over here. We're going to Action Surge. And what do we have? We got a bunch of guys near death. Let's go ahead and do, let's do Gravity Sinkhole. Now that they're really close to each other, we can pull them all in right here. And now, let's go ahead and push them again. Push, push, push. Push, push, push. We killed someone, so we got our 4th action. Yeehaw. You know what this means? It's time to draw a meteor down from the sky. I'm going to upcast it to the 7th level just because I can, and we're going to rain meteor destruction down from the heavens. Let's go ahead and pull them back towards us just because we can. We want to send them flying everywhere that we can. Boom, that's a bunch of guys moving around. And that's 4 actions. Let's end our turn. That's like 3 people dead, 4 people dead. I don't really know. Let's go ahead and end our turn. Let's go ahead and do it. Bling! He's in a dreamy stupor. Oh! How dare you? You can try. That's damage from the Event Horizon. That's damage from the Event Horizon. This guy's right up in our stuff, so let's go ahead and, actually, you know what? First, we're going to Giant's Might. We haven't done that yet. It's only our 2nd turn. Now we're big, just like Radahn, and we're going to use Booming Blade on this guy. Ba-boom! Slasher. And then we're going to hit him with an extra attack. And he's dead. Yeehaw. We get another action off of that. Let's go ahead and Magnify Gravity on these guys just because I want to show that ability off. Then let's pull them towards us. Oh, one of them already died. Cool. Well, it's only you left. Do you know what that means? That means you're going to die, bud. Booming Blade. There we go. 2 turns. We took like 10 damage. And we just killed like 8 enemies, dealing like 300 points of damage, I guess. Pretty crazy, if you ask me. And just like that, that's the Radahn Gravity Knight, a living siege weapon tearing across the battlefield with crushing force and unstoppable momentum. With devastating crowd control and explosive burst damage, this build will make you feel like the boss the world fears. Or to quote the Radahn Festival, champions welcome, the stars have aligned, the festival is nigh. Champions prepare for battle, defeat the general, claim glory, and grab that great rune. If you enjoyed the guide, be sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment about what boss-worthy builds you want to see me do next. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one, riding the stars into battle. Bye!